Welcome, and thank you for your interest in BSI. Today, we will briefly explore a few of the core modules in the BSI Java application. I'll demonstrate the steps needed to configure locations and add new specimens to the database. I'll also demonstrate a very simple workflow for pulling specimens from storage, aliquoting, and then shipping the children to another facility. Then, we'll review reporting on specimen data. Upon logging into the BSI client, users will see the BSI dashboard shown here. The dashboard allows users to easily access information from several different modules, all in a centralized place. The dashboard can be personalized by adding and organizing widgets. Work assigned to a user can even be displayed on their own dashboard. We'll take a closer look at this after we review the core modules. Modules in BSI are represented by these tabs found in the upper left corner and anything under the Manager button. The word module and manager is used interchangeably. Let's take a look at the Locations Manager first. The Locations Manager has a user-friendly interface. In fact, most operations can be accomplished with a right mouse button click. We're currently viewing the location tree for the demo repository. BSI is designed to be a multi-repository system, so there can be many different location trees within the same database. Users with the appropriate permissions may log into the different repositories. Specimens can also be transferred between the repositories. As I expand this location tree, notice I've created a structure which contains a building, room, freezer, rack, and box. This setup is configurable by the user, so the location tree can be set up with whatever container types you'd like. If I click the right mouse button on one of the containers, notice the menu that becomes available. We won't discuss the options available here, but the main takeaway is that the containers can be manipulated in a large variety of ways. Let's create a new box inside of this rack A. I'll use the option to create a new subcontainer. In the Select Container Type dialog, notice we have a variety of dimensions available for our new box. This list is also configurable by the user, so you can add as many types of containers as you need. Let's select a 10 by 10 box. Next, I'll define the properties for the box. I'll give my box an ID number of 31. Its row format is alpha, its column format is numeric, and the box will start being filled from the upper left corner. Once I click Save, notice box number 31 is now a part of the location tree. If I click on the Box Layout tab, I can see a grid view of the empty spaces inside of the box. Adding a new location is as simple as that. Now that we have our new box, let's add some specimens to this container. This will transition us into another manager called Data Entry. I can select some empty spaces in the box and right-click. Now I have the option to Add Specimen. In the background, I've applied a default data entry template, which will default some of the values for the specimens. It will also hide or display any fields of interest for adding these new specimens. Also notice in this data entry batch, the location columns are filled in since these specimens were generated from the Locations Manager. We are now looking at a data entry batch. A batch is simply one or more specimens being created or somehow modified in BSI. Batches are in spreadsheet format where each row represents a unique specimen. Notice BSI has assigned a special unique ID to each of these specimens called the BSI ID. However, users may have as many IDs for the specimens as they'd like. Batches can be processed up to 10,000 specimens at a time. New rows for specimens can be added to an add batch in a variety of ways. These include importing information from a delimited or Excel spreadsheet, The Importer Wizard walks you through the process of matching and mapping your input columns with the proper columns in BSI so that the data can be imported. We have data generation tools such as the sample generation data here, and you can add multiple rows for a sample collection. There's also the ability to scan to add information into the system, or users may simply insert rows with the Insert Row icon or the arrow down button on their keyboard. As I mentioned before, my data entry template defaulted some values such as the BSI ID, study ID, collection date, and material type. The default template also hid a lot of fields that I was not interested in seeing. But if I were to right-click and go to Hide Show Columns, here you can see all of the fields that are available for editing, which are hidden. Just because I have a template applied doesn't mean that I can't deviate from it. If I'd like to display a value that was hidden, I can do so simply by displaying in the batch here, or any value that was defaulted, I can override. Data entry templates are completely configurable by the user. Our data entry batch also enforces error checking based on the rules that were set for the database. Notice that the volume column is highlighted in red. There's also a corresponding error table at the bottom. These are level 1 errors. Level 1 errors are comparable to syntax errors, but in this case, the error is because a required value is missing. We have quite a few data entry tools to assist with filling data. In any of these cells, a user may type in a value, but our data entry tool, Mass Change, can assist with this process. Mass Change will make all of the rows in the column have the same value. Mass Change can also be used to do things such as incrementing, so I can start with a value and then increment. There are quite a few other data entry tools available for easing the process of editing your specimen data. You probably have noticed there are many different types of fields in this batch as well. For instance, this code list field. This field is linked to a list of accepted vocabulary for this field. So if anyone enters a value that is not a part of this list, that value will remain in error. Users who have the appropriate permissions may configure and edit this list. Users may also define their own field types and add the errors to them by using the customization module. I'll briefly demonstrate how to add a new code list field to this data entry batch. I'll save this data entry batch, which has the ID number of 215, and I'll close this batch. Let's navigate to the Customization Manager. In Customization, I'd like to add a new field in the data entry record, so it's a specimen level field. Here I can select to add a new field, and let's give this field a name. We'll call it Wallop Demo. When selecting the field type, I have a large variety of different field types I can choose. The code list field is the choice field. Here, under the value properties, I have an opportunity to link the Wallop Demo field with an existing code list already in the database, or I can create a new code list. Let's create a new code list. We'll call the list Wallop Demo. I'll use my Mass Change tool to assign different values. For the labels, I'll use yes, no, and maybe. All of these values should be active in my code list, so I'll use the Mass Change tool to set each of the values to true. Now I've created the new Wallop demo code list, and I'll save the field. Now, if I navigate back to data entry and reopen batch number 215 for editing, if I right-click to hide and show columns, I can filter for that new field. Wallop demo is now available as a new field. I can display it, and it's available for editing. Users may also use that same module to add errors to the database when certain values or certain conditions are not. Label printing is also available all throughout BSI. Anywhere this icon is found, users may print a label. Any of the columns displayed in the batch can be used on the label, and any of the fields can be made as a barcode. Let's check again for any errors in this batch and commit our specimens. Notice the dialog for committing the data into BSI. This dialog confirms what's being committed, the date, and the time. Users can also automatically create a requisition as soon as the files are committed in this batch. Notice the status of the batch is now committed. I could also go back to the location manager and look at my new box and see the specimen stored inside of the box. Notice the right mouse button is now available for each of the specimens inside the box as well. I have quite a few options available. I can report on the specimens, I can edit the specimens, or I can perform some requisition tasks on these specimens. Notice the vial status for each of the specimens is in. A vial status of in means that they are available for use in the repository. Now that these specimens have been committed, let's go ahead and process them in a requisition. We'll navigate to the Requisitions Manager. We'll use the workflow that we discussed at the outset. That is a simple pull, aliquot, and ship task. This page contains the requisition properties. These are all of the things that are true about the requisition that need to be associated with the specimens to be processed. Here I'm creating a requisition batch. This is an empty requisition batch, so we need to search for the specimens we'd like to process. We can search for specimens by adding vials to the requisition. Notice the search dialog you see here. This is the standard search dialog used all throughout the database. So once you've learned how to search for specimens in a requisition, you'll know how to search for specimens for reporting and for modifying. Searching in BSI is very robust, and you have lots of options available. Full Boolean logic is available for searching for the specimens. Let's look for those that we just entered today. We know that the date entered for those specimens is today's date. We can test to see how many of those specimens meet our search criteria. We can see here that 5 specimens match our search criteria, and those are the very 5 specimens we entered today. We could add other search parameters to make this specimen search more specific. Notice all that we're searching on here are the vial level fields, but BSI allows you to search on other fields. You can search on fields from the requisition table, fields from subject tables, or even the entire database. There are well over 200 different tables in the database where if you know what you're looking for, you can mine for data. Let's go ahead and execute this search to add our specimens to the requisition. I'm going to submit this requisition for processing. Now it will be opened for editing. Notice the table that we have here. Each row represents a unique specimen, and the status of the specimen has been changed. It's been changed from in to reserved. A reserved specimen is one that's been checked out of the repository and is being worked on by a particular person in a requisition. Now we need to add tasks to represent our workflow, the pull, aliquot, and ship. The Add Task icon is found here. Notice all of the different tasks available. I could manually add each task one by one, the pull, then the aliquot, and then the ship. However, if we know that we're going to be performing that workflow on our specimens on a regular basis, to simplify the process, we can put those in a template. I've created a requisition template to define that workflow. Let's go to the Tools Manager and apply my task template. The task template is called Demo. By applying the demo template, BSI will automatically apply the appropriate tasks to the appropriate vials as defined by my search. It's begun an aliquot task and created 2 children per parent, and it is shipping the children. Notice that the task icons follow the legend at the top here. The next step is for me to complete each task. I can highlight the specimens I'd like to work on and right-click. I have the option of scanning to complete this task. When I scan to complete, I just need to walk through a wizard that tells BSI which unique identifier I'm scanning. When a match is found, the status of the task is updated to complete. Or I could manually mark as complete. Once the task is completed, the icon looks as the legend above for the completed task. Next, let's complete the aliquot task. In the child completion dialog for the aliquot task, each of the gray rows are the original parents, and the green rows are the new children that have been added. The link between the parent and child is captured in a special field called Parent ID. Notice the children inherit the unique BSI ID from their parent in their Parent ID column. You can easily look at this batch and see the relationship between parents and children. Notice there are some rows that are highlighted in red. Again, these are required values that must be filled in. There's also a corresponding error table at the bottom. I can use some of my data entry tools to correct these errors. We have a tool called Copy from Parent, so that the value assigned to the parent is copied down into the children. We have another tool that allows you to select specific rows. I only want to select the children for this next operation, and then I can use mass change to give the children a particular value. All of my children have a value of 0.25. At this point, now I can subtract the value of the children from the parent. I'll use the Copy from Parent tool for the volume unit column as well. The only thing remaining now are warnings. Warnings are suggestions on ways to correct the batch, but they aren't something that you must stop for. This warning is because the children have also inherited the same location as their parent. Since I'm ultimately shipping the children, I can disregard this warning. Now I'll commit the children in the child completion dialog. After successful completion, notice the children are no longer green. They're now real specimens reserved in the batch that can be available for editing. Finally, we'll ship the parents off to their next destination. If we look at the Ship Task column header and look at the properties for the task, we can see some information about where the specimens are being shipped. The destination where the specimens are being shipped is tracked here. Notice this is a code list. This is editable by the user. So all of the places where you'll be sending your specimens can be listed here. You may also list an email address for each of those locations. So if you check the box to email the destination, a manifest is emailed to that location when the task is completed. You can also enter courier information such as the courier itself and the tracking number. Now I can right-click to mark as completed, and notice the vial status is updated to out, meaning the specimens are no longer in the repository's custody and the ship task is now complete. Completing requisition tasks is as simple as that. The last module we'll explore is the Reports module. You've already seen the search interface, so as you know, reports are robust and complex and can be executed on any part of the database. Our demonstration is just going to take a look at a few simple reports. There are standard and user-defined reports available. Any of the reports contained in these folders are considered standard or canned reports. Let's take a look at a unified history report for one of the specimens we just modified. Notice this report is available in a variety of formats: PDF, delimited, or an HTML file. Because it's a standard report, our searches are a little more limited for what's available to us. Let's search on those specimens who have a date modified of today's date. Notice when my PDF report opens, I can see the sample and sequence number for those specimens that have been edited, the date and time which they were modified, and all of the changes that happened. Notice I also can see the batch ID number where the change was made and who made the change. This report is available for all of those specimens, all those 5 specimens that we modified today. There are quite a few of these kinds of reports available in BSI, and when put all together, they make the audit trail for the specimens. In addition to the standard reports, we also have the user-defined reports. There are user-defined frequencies and user-defined listings. They are just as they sound. Frequencies return counts, listings return detailed lists. I have a few of these reports saved in my folder. Users can save any report in their folder and make it available again for future use. I have a report that shows me the location of all of the specimens I've shipped. I've called it Location of Out Files. Notice in my user-defined listing I have a few more tabs here. I've got 4 in fact. Under the General tab, I have a new option for my output type, Interactive Table. The interactive table will open in a table format that we've seen so far today, like the requisitions and data entry tables. If a BSI ID is present in an interactive table, I then have the right mouse button available. In my Display tab, I've selected a few fields from the vial, sample, and requisition table. I have the ability to sort this report by any of the displayed fields here. Let's sort by BSI ID. And then finally, in my search, I'm able to search on any of the displayed fields or any of the database fields in the tables shown here. Let's run this report. Here I can see very quickly all of the specimens that have been shipped out during the month of March. I can see the location where they've been shipped and which requisition ID the task was completed in. Let's take a look at a saved frequency report. We'll display this in an interactive table as well. Delimited files do open directly in Excel. I've displayed a few fields from the vial table and I'm searching for anything in the alpha study. When I run this report, I get this output. In the alpha study, I can see that I have bone marrow specimens that have statuses of in, out, and reserved, and I have a count for each one. Any of the reports that I have saved in my folder can be displayed on the BSI dashboard. Notice the frequency of material types in the alpha study here has been displayed as a pie chart. I can hover over any pieces of the pie to get quick counts. I could also opt to display my listing report. Let's do the location of shipped vials report. Here I can see that report on my dashboard. It's refreshed every time I log in, or I can manually refresh by clicking here. Also, each of these BSI IDs is a live link, and it opens to show me quick information about this specimen. There are some other strengths of the BSI dashboard that are available. Notice I have a widget that says data entry assigned to me. When working in a data entry batch or in the data entry manager, the Assign To button is available here. Users may assign work to themselves or other users. Whenever work is assigned, the assignee will receive an email at the email address associated with their user account containing the batch number and which module. And that work will also appear in that user's dashboard under the widget. Here are the batches I've assigned to myself, and they are all live links where I can click to open the batch and complete the work right away. There are Assign To widgets available for shipments, requisitions, and kits. Thank you for taking the time to demo BSI with us. We hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to the BSI support team. We can be reached by email at bsi@imsweb.com or by phone at 301-628-1274. Thank you.